Now, that's the head of the 9/11 Commission.
Amazing information, and I do what you just did all the time. Janet Napolitano has not come out for 9/11 Truth. It was Andrew Napolitano.
Right.
But I do the same thing all the time. He always jokes and calls her his cousin, though she's not his cousin. So what are they going to do as the majority of the public is beginning, and polls show this, to wake up to the fact it's an inside job? What are they going to do next time when they need to blow something up to pose as our saviors? This has got to really be hurting the globalists right now.
Well, it's going to pose them a huge problem when they try to pull off their next false flag operation, because just like the Kennedy assassination, 9/11 hit us in the face like a wet rag. You know, the American public was just not prepared for that, and it was such a shock, such a trauma, that, it took us a while to gather our senses. But I think more and more people are going to be on the lookout next time, and they're not going to be able to pull something like that quite as easily.
I agree. That's why they're going with patsies now, where they find mentally ill teenagers, drug them up, get them on airplanes, try to get them to blow up Christmas trees.
Right.
And even mainstream media is now admitting, wow, this is all provocateur.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, this is actually kind of a good point. It's a good thing. I don't know about you, Alex, but would you agree with me that the New World Order is somewhat in disarray right now? They're kind of running for cover, and they're trying to cover their backsides, and they're not really quite clear on exactly which way they should go.
I agree with you. Let's come back and talk about WikiLeaks, and we'll get into the economy and where you see it going this year. His book's available. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's The $1 Trillion Conspiracy. We got it at Infowars.com in the shopping cart. If you want to support Jim Marrs and Alex Jones.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups.
You want answers?
You want answers? Well, so does he.
So do I.
It's Alex Jones on
Yeah.
the GCN Radio Network.
I get excited when I think about the fact how much traction Liberty's getting. To watch the tyranny exploding makes me angry. But I know it's a defense mechanism by the globalists, knowing that their time is short. They're hoping that the pre-programmed fake Christians, it's only a 150-year-old doctrine or less, keep thinking it's the end of the world and the rapture with all these Hollywood movies about it, so they all stand down and think, it's a foregone conclusion, give in to evil. No, it's not, and we're not going to give in to evil. And we can get the 100-year reprieve like Nineveh. You know, it just shames me that it was Christians that led the fight against slavery in this country. Before that led the fight to start our nation. And to see Christians being some of the biggest supporters of evil makes me sick, because you're not Christians. You're following this Masonic, Christianoid garbage. Now, before I go any further, another thing, Masons will say, well, we helped found the country. We're fighting tyranny. Really, where are you? Half these cops are Masons out there destroying the Bill of Rights. In fact, we'll talk with Jim Marrs about that, where he thinks Masonry sits in all of this, at least the Illuminati version of it that Washington wrote about and warned about. But before I go any further and get into WikiLeaks, Marrs has got a lot on that. That's why I originally got him on. I want to tell you about mysolarbackup.com. It's a great plug-and-play solar panel system with the charger and the controller. We've been promoting these for over 3 years. Our listeners just give us great reviews from the folks from Solutions from Science. It's one word, mysolarbackup.com, or 877-327-0365, 877-327-0365, mysolarbackup.com. Also, I want to tell you about prepared.pro. That's PREPARED.pro. These folks have been in the readiness business for almost 10 years. They're in the business of steel-plated peace of mind. They sell everything you need to be more ready for what's coming down the pike. Survival gear, it's an amazing website. Supplies, even steel-plated underground shelters. They got gun boxes to bury guns, you name it, safe rooms. Tell them Alex Jones sent you. Again, that's prepared.pro for professional crisis preparedness. And it doesn't mean you're scared when you get this type of stuff. It means you're prepared. It means you're on the offense. And a good offense is a good defense, just as a good defense is an offense. They're interchangeable. They go one with the other. And finally, efoodsdirect.com. You need firearms, you need food. This is the place to get the food, high quality, made new every week, every month. No GMO, non-hybrid, all different food lines, raw foods, basic foods, gourmet foods. They got free shipping running for, I think, just a few more days. on some of their specials, which is one of the biggest costs with storable foods, is the shipping. So free shipping, giant discount. They got some other specials, too. efoodsdirect.com, big banners on infowars.com and prisonplanet.com if you forget the URL, or call and get a free brochure or ask questions, 800-409-5633. If you don't have storable food, you're crazy. 800-409-5633. I want to thank our sponsors for making this transmission possible. Without them and you, the listener support, we couldn't do any of it. All right, going back to Jim Marrs, legendary researcher and author, multiple-time New York Times bestseller, good old-fashioned straw hat police crime beat reporter, JFK research grand poobah. His book, along with one other book, were integrated into the film. Robert Grodin, of course, was seminal as well in the JFK film with Oliver Stone. Continuing with the WikiLeaks situation. It's a very complex issue, but give us your shrewd take on that, Jim Marrs. What's your take on WikiLeaks, Jim? We must have lost Jim's connection.
No, I'm here. Hello.
Yes, what's your take on the WikiLeaks?
Well, before we get to WikiLeaks, can I just throw in something about the California missile?
Oh, absolutely. Give us your...
This is huge. Let me tell you, this is China slips a submarine 35 miles off our coast, fires off an ICBM-type missile, and our Pentagon, who had to be under the orders of the commander-in-chief, all right, tells us that, oh, well, there was no danger to the United States, and actually we think it was just an airplane contrail, and nothing there, folks. Alex, this would be like Hitler invades Poland in September of 1939, starting World War II, and our media says there was a traffic jam on the highways in western Poland this morning. Come on.
Well, maybe it was Santa and his reindeer. We've had a lot of guests on, like Wayne Madsen, who says he has the sources in the government that it was a missile trail, a Polaris copy, launched from under the water. They've had one of the former chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, or one of the members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We've had all these NASA top rocket scientists say it was clearly a missile, but then the government says it was a condensation trail. Here's the London Telegraph today. This has been announced by the Chinese military. China preparing for armed conflict in every direction. China's preparing for conflict in every direction, the defense minister said on Wednesday in remarks that threatened to overshadow a visit to Beijing by U.S. counterpart next month. Quote, in the coming years, our military will push forward preparations for military conflict in every strategic direction, said Lang Guangail. An interview published by several state-backed newspapers. We may be living in peaceful times, but we are never forgetting war, never send the horses south or put the bayonets on the guns away, he said. And remember, over 98% now of rare earth minerals are coming out from Chinese buying up the areas in Africa, South America, and Australia. And the globalists and the CFR have done this by design. They've used the U.S. to fund their world government. Now they're going to bankrupt us, destroy our name, and the Chinese are our absolute rulers because they got one-child policy. They got eugenics. I mean, they want to put lithium in the water. They are the future, and this is it. And they already have a pyramid power system structure of government, okay? In other words, at the very top is one guy or a handful of people, and then they tell everybody else what to do. So how easy is it going to be to simply put them on the board of directors or buy them off, and then you control all the Chinese? And by the way, if anybody's doubting this, there are literally hundreds of mainstream news articles I've seen worshiping Singapore, run by a communist Chinese individual who went to Oxford and is admittedly MI6. He stages the kick out of the British in the 1960s. He takes over, and National Geographic admits in their January issue from 10 months ago or so, or 11 months ago, earlier this year, they admit in here that the Singapore model is a test and that this is going to be the model of the world, and it's total fascism. I'll show folks a document cam shot of this, where they have giant all-seeing eye telescreens with troops, where you're executed for criticizing the government. and they just say it's wonderful to be slaves. They say they basically believe in eugenics and that we're animals and that we want tyranny. And, I mean, it is just so crazy to see our media introducing evil as if it's a good thing. And China, and they admit China is now going off the Singapore MI6 model.
Yep. And the thing is, they're all basing this on the current scientific dogma, which says it's all in our DNA. You know, whatever your DNA makes.
Yeah, we don't have free will.
We don't have any free will, except now they're finding out that, do you realize you can take the nucleus out of a cell and the cell continues to function? So in other words, it's not the brain, okay? Something else, it makes us who we are, and it's not the genes, okay? The genes are just the means of reproducing and giving us motion, you know.
Well, Jim, that's exactly. It's a con game to say you don't have free will, you're not allowed to have a view, nothing matters, but by the way, do everything we say, follow what we say. I mean, it's a mind trick. It's a Jedi mind trick to say you don't have any free will, you're an animal, so you're my slave.
That's right. And what's wild is that they've always pointed to the science to say, see, science shows that we're just these biological robots at the mercy of the genes or whatever, and yet cutting-edge biology is showing us quite the opposite. And that it's the environment, it's the experiences. In other words, it's the universal energy that guides us, not the biological gene.
Well,
God, if you will.
I mean, mainline science is now saying that DNA is a receiver of some type.
Right. So where's the transmitter?
It's incredible. I mean, look, we don't know 1/1,000,000th of what we really are.
That's true. But we're told to listen to the hired experts who say, oh, well, here's who you are, you know. So in other words, we're down to a situation where it's just like whether you're a witness in Dealey Plaza in 1963 or whether you're watching the plume go off the California coast on November the 8th, it comes down to, well, who are you going to believe and trust, your government or your own lying eyes?
It's incredible. Give us your breakdown on what this means, what the message was from the Chinese right as Obama was meeting with them.
Yeah, well, that's the key point, is the timing, okay? First off, a few months before, we had conducted naval exercises in the South China Sea, and we were firing off missiles and doing all this stuff. We were flexing our military muscle at China, you know, in preparation for Obama's trip over there, where he's begging them to continue to take the U.S. dollar as a trading.
And their message was, we can blow L.A. off the map in 5 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly. So they were just, it was tit for tat. It's a saber rattle for saber rattle, except here's the thing, the Pentagon and the government cannot admit that that was a Chinese missile, even though it was not aimed at us. It didn't blow up. It didn't cause us any harm. It was just a little show of force. But they can't admit to it because, think about it, Alex, if they admit that the Chinese are able to slip a submarine up to within 35 miles of our coast and fire off a large missile, then the trillions of dollars that we've poured into our anti-missile defense system is wasted.
Well, I mean, if it's a suicide mission, they can't ever stop submarines. The Chinese have hundreds and hundreds of them. They just pull up and fire their Polaris knockoffs. Thanks to Bill Clinton and Donald Rumsfeld, they transferred all that stuff in the mid-1990s through Laura Allen Hughes to them.
That's right.